All right, there we go. Back at it again. All right, here we go. Salute to NBA Nation on this Monday afternoon. The NBA report is back. CP the Franchise special guest. You can catch him on New York Post Sports, man, hosting a number of shows. He's all over the place, man. My guy Dexter Henry is back in the building. 82 games done. And now it is money time. We're going to talk about our most intriguing matchups of this NBA first round. Plus, Black Monday. A couple of firings in the league, including Mike Budenholzer out in the land of the Valley of the Sun. And David Griffin also catching the axe out there in New Orleans. So lock in, hit the like button, hit the share button, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get right into it. My guy Dex, how you feeling, man?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling good. How you doing? It's busy times. You and I were talking about busy times right now.
Busy times, man, but good to be back up here, man. Good to be back up here and running this show as we head into the playoffs. We'll be back here on the NBA report, so definitely appreciate you for kicking it off. Hey, man, let's start with the East, man. What is your most intriguing matchup of the Eastern Conference as we look at these brackets right now?
Yeah, I thought about this, and I was like, man, I was trying not to go against a team that I was obviously around a lot, and you and I talk about a lot in the Knicks, but it's hard to not say it's the Knicks and the Pistons. It's the most intriguing matchup for a bunch of reasons. I think for me, the Pistons, their turnaround from 14 wins to 44 wins, which is tremendous. JB Bickerstaff has done a great job there. Cade Cunningham finally coming into his own. But then on the side with the Knicks, look, all the pressure is on them in this series, right? They're the team that's expected to win. They hadn't played well to close out the season. There's a lot of questions, but I think it's a good opportunity for this team to answer some of those questions. So I'm looking at what can the Pistons do? What can the Knicks do? I'm inclined to think that some people might be giving the Pistons a little too much credit here. I think the Knicks might have heard some of this talk, and I think they might come out and respond strongly on Saturday. But it's my most interesting series of the first round in the East because I want to see what this young Pistons team can do on this playoff stage.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like the Pistons, look, they deserve a ton of credit this year. They tripled their win total, which is incredible. The job that JB Bickerstaff, there's a lot of redemption stories here. When you think about the way JB Bickerstaff was pretty much unceremoniously, fired from the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavaliers players kind of throwing him under the bus, so he kind of resurrected himself with the Pistons. Cade Cunningham, his story as an emerging young superstar, and as well as a leader, most importantly, because that Pistons team, they needed leadership, and they have a lot of veteran players, but they needed a face. And Cade Cunningham has really taken that on and really led with his play. So he deserves a lot of credit there. And then on the Knicks side, look, I'm with you in that. I do believe that the Pistons, I think they're getting a little bit too much credit here. Not as a homer and as a Knicks fan. Obviously, that is my day job. But look, I think it's very popular to crap on the Knicks right now because of the way that they're playing. They did blow a lead against the Pistons, albeit with 3 players out of their rotation. They had a big, sizable lead there. And when the Pistons turned up in the second half. I thought they gave the Knicks their best. And the Knicks didn't want to respond to this. Whether people want to say they got bullied, they got punked. I think the Knicks did not want to respond to this. And honestly, man, I didn't blame the Knicks for not doing so. I didn't think this was a game that was worth having and putting yourself on the line physically when this is not the playoffs. When you see them in the playoffs, that's when you're going to go mano-y-mano. And look, I think the Knicks are going to respond here, man. Like, I don't see why they shouldn't. They have the talent. They have the experience, and hell, they have the coaching edge in terms of Bickerstaff versus Thibodeau. I give the Knicks this edge in the series because of all those keys.
I agree with you. I said in another show today, my pick is Knicks in 5. I know some people see the series going longer. To that point, CP, about the game they played last Thursday against the Pistons, you can't get worried about it. It wasn't a serious game. The Knicks didn't treat that like a serious game. PJ Tucker and Precious Achiuwa played 67 total minutes in that game. Like, that's no shade to those dudes, but that's not a serious game, right? And so I don't think you could take it like that. I think, if anything, Detroit should have some more concerns from the game. They were down to the Knicks, who had a lineup of DeLon Wright, Landry Shamet, PJ Tucker, Precious Achua, and I'm forgetting who the fifth player that was out there right now. Maybe it was Miles McBride
Yes.
out there. They didn't have a strong lineup out there, and the Knicks were up by 13 in that game. So what does that tell you about Detroit that they were down to that team with that lineup? I think the Knicks will be fine here. It doesn't mean I don't think there'll be some close games because I think there will be.
Yeah.
But I think the Knicks, as I said, I think they've heard this talk. I think they know what they need to clean up. This was the game that I think should concern fans more was the Cleveland game. I think that was more of a game you could get upset about. I was at that game. I was in the locker room. You could tell some of the leaders on this team were pissed about that game. They wanted that game. I know there was no cat. They wanted that game, but the Knicks should win this game. If the Knicks don't win this series, CP, and you and I, I'm sure we'll talk more about this through the series. Look, we got to call what it is. It would be a failure.
Sure.
Absolutely would be a failure if they don't win. As a New Yorker and somebody who's around the team, I'm not, putting the homer hat on here, but I just think the Knicks are the more talented team. I think they're the more playoff tested team. I'm not sure the Pistons are ready for what's waiting for them at the Garden on Saturday night. But I think the Pistons will settle and play well at some points. But it's a whole new ballgame in the playoffs. It's a whole new ballgame.
Well, the playoffs, certainly what I did like from the Pistons in that last matchup was how physical they got with the Knicks. And that is a good test for the Knicks to understand, look, this is how this team is going to play in the playoffs. This is their A game. And I like the way that the referees called it almost like a playoff style and letting a lot of things go. And for the Knicks, who have a lot of crybabies on this team, I'm a Knicks fan. I love the team. But from Cat to Josh Hart, they have a lot of complainers. Those things are only going to hurt the Knicks, especially with their transition defense that's already weak in terms of their inability to pinpoint guys and match up well. So they've got to lock in on a playoff mindset, knowing that, hey, you get used to not getting these calls because you're not going to get it in the playoffs. You got to toughen up, and I want to see how this Knicks team responds. They have the talent edge. They have the clutch edge with Brunson. They have, to me, in terms of talent, more top-heavy. I wouldn't say maybe a depth because their bench is always suspect, but from their first 7 or so, I'm still going to give them the edge over Detroit. So, like I said, they should be able to handle that, but there are things that Detroit does that the Knicks have to be on guard for. Their ability to get out in transition. Knicks have to be very careful with the ball. You can't be loosey-goosey with it, right? And again, that plays into guys like Karl Anthony Towns falling over every time he gets hacked. Now you're going 4-on-5 on defense. You have Jalen Brunson out there on that 4-on-5. Now you got 5-on-3. You know what I mean? 3-on-5.
And see, that part right there, CP, that's going to be huge in the game. That's kind of the difference in the game, too. It's in transition. You can't have things like that. It's also in the half-court sets, which I'm very intrigued to see with the Pistons as the game slows down for them and there are less transition opportunities. What are they doing that? But now we know they're going to put Jalen Brunson and Cat in all the actions. We know that's going to happen. Have the Knicks learn to finally how to defend that. I think another concern for me in the Cleveland game was there was no Cat, and you saw Darius Garland just hunt Jalen Brunson, get him in action, and either they were doubling, trapping, and then you saw Strus hit a bunch of threes and kill him in that game. So I think those are things the Knicks have to clean up defensively. They got to be tougher. They got to decide how they're going to play defensively. And then offensively, one thing I will add, Karl Anthony Towns has got to read the game better against the Pistons. They have more physical bigs, but those bigs don't want to come out. So I'd like to see Cat let it fly a little bit more from the three-point line against these guys because Jalen Duren, Beef Stew, those guys really don't want to get out there on the perimeter, and I think that's where Cat could do some work, and the Knicks have an advantage in some pick and roll, pick and pop situations with him.
Yeah, in those situations, like you saw Cat trying to back down Beef Stew. Beef Stew's not going to give up an inch there. I'd like to see Cat double down on his strength, which is shooting the ball and shooting it from the outside. That way you can draw guys like Beef Stew and Duren away from the basket, and then, hey, the Knicks have shown the ability to be great cutters off of Cat's passes. And now when you're drawing that gravity and the outside defenders or weak side defenders have to turn their head a little bit to make sure that they're protecting against Cat maybe on drives or so, boom, now you got wings flying to the basket and you have no center to protect it. So I think that's an area that the Knicks can certainly exploit. So again, that's going to be a very interesting matchup. You heard about the gamesmanship that Detroit is doing, all but blocking New Yorkers from coming from out of state to infiltrate the Little Caesars Arena. So they are trying to make sure they do their best to get a home field advantage here at games 3 and 4, respectively.
Did you see, I'm sure you saw the report from my guy, Stephen Bondi, and he talked to I forget, I don't want to misquote the person, but the
Yeah.
person who worked with the Pistons, and they're talking about this. They're not worried about this. This happens in the Southeast Division. They don't want this to happen here. Here's what I'll say to that. You can do whatever you want to do in your arena, but it feels like loser mentality to me. It just
Hey,
feels like loser
hey.
mentality to me, where you're like, oh, we're scared of the Knicks takeover. Now, CP, you were down in Philly last year. I don't remember, was it games 3 and 4? You
Game
were there for both
four.
games, right?
Game
Game
four.
four.
Yeah.
You were there for game 4, and the Knicks fans took over Philly. And I was shocked about that happening in Philly, if I'm being completely honest.
Yep.
I was a little shocked about that from our friends down in City of Brotherly Love. But Detroit, you're worried about the Knicks takeover there? And listen, I've been in a Little Caesars Arena. Nice arena, fantastic. Um, hey, your fans got to show up. 313, y'all got to show out. That's all I'm saying.
Gotta show up, man. Salute to everybody in the chat once again. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. If you have any new viewers, I see my KFTV family came over here, so they are hyped and ready to go. If you guys are new here or longtime NBA Report subscribers, leave us a hashtag new. We'll shout you guys out. All right, Dex, how about out west, man? What are you looking at out west? That's the most interesting matchup. I mean, you could literally go everyone in the West, but what do you think, so? What do you think?
Oh, man, all these series out west, even the ones where we don't know who's going to be playing the 1 or the 2 seed, look good. I got to go with the 4-5 here. I got to go with Nuggets Clippers. And for me, it's that the Clippers have played really well to close this season. They've looked good. They've been fantastic defensively. Kawhi is starting to look like old Kawhi. I mean, you got to knock on wood for him and hope he stays healthy. That's the thing. And then the Nuggets situation is so fascinating because they just fired Michael Malone. They just fired Calvin Booth. David Alderman is in there. They've won 3 straight. What does this team look like now with new leadership? Are they fine? They've got the home court advantage. Are they okay against this good Clippers team? I'd be stunned if this series doesn't go 7. I think it's a fantastic matchup. How does Zubac try to hold down Jokic?
That's a fascinating matchup.
Fascinating matchup. Do we see playoff Jamal Murray, CP? Who's kind of been quiet? Can he give Jokic some help? If you've watched some of these games with the Nuggets since they fired Mike Malone, the usage rate for Jokic has gone down. And it makes me wonder if Jokic has been wanting a little bit more of others to help because he has to do so much. We know how much Jokic does. Average a triple-double for the season. All that stuff is good, but no matter who you are as a superstar, that stuff starts to wear on you. And Jokic is still yet to play with another all-star in his career. And so we know they won a championship a couple of years ago. I'm just wondering who can step up for them in this series. And is this the Clippers' time? The Clippers now, where the expectations might be less for them, I wonder if this is maybe the best version of this Clippers team that we've seen because they can defend. And Ty Lue, we know he's a hell of a coach. So, yeah, that's my most fascinating series. What do you got in the West?
You know what? Before I get to that, just on this Nuggets Clippers, I'm gonna give the Clippers the edge here, man. I think they are the hotter team right now. They have the size, they have a lot of versatility, and their star power. They're playing like stars. Give them credit. You know, Harden and Kawhi Leonard. They were pretty much in a playoff type atmosphere in Golden State just yesterday, where both of them come out with over 30 points. Could this be one of Kawhi Leonard's last stands as a star/superstar player? Have we not seen the best of the claw yet in the playoffs because he's been beset by injuries in so many consecutive years? James Harden has been playing at a high level as an all-star. And then you have their supporting cast. Zubac being an animal in the paint. Norman Powell having an all-star year. Should have made it. LeBron took his spot. Should have made it. You have the Batum factor. Like, I feel like the Clippers have enough to get through here with the Nuggets. Nuggets have way too many question marks. From their defense to who is going to step up and help the Joker. Is it going to be Jamal Murray? Can Michael Porter Jr. get hot from shooting? Like, to me, their supporting cast has always been suspect since they won the championship, and that doesn't change with the coaching change. I still think they're going to be in trouble, and I like the Clippers in this one. For me, my most intriguing is Lakers Wolves, man. Lakers Wolves.
Yeah.
Because, look, OKC is definitely the favorite, as they should be. However, I look at the Lakers and Timberwolves in a confounding way because on one hand, I look at both teams where you've seen them at their best and you're like, man, like these guys could challenge OKC for that spot. And then you kind of, especially with the Timberwolves, you see them at their worst, so it's like, damn, they could be out. They could be swept out of there. So I think it's going to be interesting. For me, the size matchup with the Timberwolves and their depth and versatility. I want to see how JJ Redick handles that. You know, you have Gobert, you have Randall, you have Naz Reid, and with the Lakers having lost AD and had to, you know, have a hodgepodge of big lineups with Jackson Hayes, then they go a little bit smaller with DFS, like maybe even a LeBron at the 5. How do they handle the size of the Wolves? And then on the Wolves side, it's, can Ant-Man match that star power of Luka and LeBron on a night-to-night basis? Because they're going to need him to win this series.
I have the same concern as you with the Timberwolves in terms of, well, how the Lakers are going to handle Timberwolves size, I should say. That same concern. I know that the Timberwolves feel confident in that ability, and that's feel like where they can win the game. They think they can out-physical them with Gobert, with Naz Reid, with Julius Randle, who's played very well as of late to close the season. He's actually been in really good form. So is Dante DiVincenzo, guys we know well here in New York. That's a tough one, man. Like, I don't even know where to go. I want to say with the Clippers, I'm kind of with you on that. I think Clips in 6. I'm going to go with Clips in 6 there. In this series, how do the Wolves guard in perimeter? That's my only thing. Because, you know, Doncic is a handful. Okay. Here, we know that Austin Reeves has been balling. We know that both teams have an edge in the other places on the court. Lakers on the perimeter, Wolves down low. Who's going to win that is going to be really telling. I also think the Wolves are battle tested. I know it's a different team for them. I know Cat's not there anymore, but they just went through a deep playoff run. They went through a run against Luka. Well, even though Luka cooked them last year, I wonder how they come back in defending Luka. Are they going to trap him a lot? But, you know, now you have LeBron, who's playing a little bit more off the ball. Austin Reeves, who's comfortable with the ball. There's a lot. This is a very good chess match. I could see this one going 7, CP.
Yeah.
I want to give the edge to the Lakers because I think they have the best player in the series. But it would not shock me if the Wolves won one bit at all whatsoever. And I think it's because I don't really trust the Lakers' big man rotation, not trusting Jackson Hayes at center at all whatsoever. The Lakers seem like they're a big man away from being a quality big man, I should say, from being like a really good team. But this could go 7. I think go either way.
I'm with you 100%. The Wolves' perimeter defense, to me in particular, because Luka Doncic has owned them, but also Austin Reeves. Because if you're going to put Jaden McDaniels on Luka, if you're going to try to match up either Julius Randle on LeBron, who is guarding Austin Reeves, bro? Is it going to be Mike Conley? You know what I'm saying?
I don't like that. I don't like that for them.
And he's one of the hottest players in the NBA right now. Austin Reeves is killing. So I have to see how Chris Finch attacks that. Does he go with more DiVincenzo? Do you throw Nickeil Alexander-Walker out there early? Because Conley's going to be a sitting duck out there going up against Austin Reeves. His ability to score at all 3 levels and get to the basket and draw contact, I think that's going to put Mike Conley in a precarious position if the Wolves can't help him. And then another thing I'm interested in, and from a New York standpoint, hey, this is Julius Randle's first healthy postseason in 2 years. And they need him to go far. As the Robin to Ant-Man's Batman, what will Julius look like in the West? Battling with those guys, battling with LeBron. I'm very interested to see how he performs as well.
Hey, if Julius has I'll tell you what, in game 1, if he has a poor shooting game, you're going to see Knicks Twitter and Timberwolves Twitter unite. It's going to be like, woo. Knicks Twitter is going to be like, man, we've seen this movie before. Man, I'm not hoping this for Julius. I hope he shoots the ball really well and performs well out there. I think it'll be good for him and his confidence because, again, I told you, he's played really well down the stretch of this season. But you're right. They need that for him. They need him to be able to draw fouls, to attack inside, to be his aggressive self. I think if Randall's settling for jumpers here, not a good sign for the Timberwolves. You brought up a great point, CP. What are they going to do with Mike Conley? Because that, to me, is a big question in the series. How many minutes can you play Mike Conley? That's the thing, because not just about where you can put him. If you bring in Nickeil Alexander-Walker in earlier than you expected off the bench, well, how many minutes can you truly play Mike Conley in a series if there's nowhere to hide him? There really is nowhere to hide him. That's right. That, like, what are you going to do, put him on Jackson Hayes?
Right.
And Conley's still a good floor general, can give you minutes as he still got some game in him and a great dude, but defensively, that's Chris Finch. Hey, that's why he gets paid the big bucks. He's got to figure that out.
Going to be interesting, man. What do you guys think in the chat? Eastern Conference, Western Conference. What are your most intriguing first round matchups? CP the Franchise, Dexter Henry on the NBA Report, man. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe as we get the engine started back up, man. Playoff time, very exciting time in the NBA, and the West is going to be just a dogfight all the way through. Now, as is always the case, Dex, and then when the end of the season comes, now we saw a little bit of these earlier than expected. Yeah. But today is Black Monday, and getting the axe over in the land of the rising sun, or the Valley of the Sun, rather. Mike Budenholzer, the hometown kid, the prodigal son, came home, and now he's been shown the door. What do you think about that, man?
I'm shaking my head, CP, because this Suns team is going to be looking for their third head coach in 3 years. Yeah. When these things happen, sometimes I always like tell people, because I'm a native New Yorker and work in journalism in New York, could you imagine if this was the Knicks? If this was the Knicks, oh man, it would be terrible. At some point, we have to call it what it is with the Suns, right? Matt Ishbia has not done a good job since he's taken over as owner. He's been aggressive. Aggressive does not always mean good. And he has repeatedly rushed into making moves. The roster construction has been flawed. This is a team that even started 8-1. So now you have to look at it and say, Frank Vogel, you fired him last year. The team was ranked 13th in defense, if I remember correctly, last year, 13th in defensive rating, a team that a lot of people didn't think was going to be a good defensive team, and he had him in the top 13. Now you bring in Mike Budenholzer, and they're near the bottom of the league in defensive rating, and were for most of this season, especially in the second half. So it's always the coach's fault. James Jones still has his job, which is shocking.
Shocking.
I was stunned by that. Like, James Jones is going to be able to hire another coach. That's really shocking to me, when all they've done since Monty Williams is decrease in what they've done. So at some point, the problem is owners can't fire themselves, right?
Right.
And at some point, the buck stops with the owner, and it's who you're hiring, who's doing the roster construction. I think Phoenix, when you look at where they were a couple of years ago and where they are now, CP, this is nothing left to look at than the roster construction. They made moves they did not need to make. I thought making the Durant move was fine. They did not need to bring Bradley Beal in. That was a move that doesn't help him. Now you can't move on from Bradley Beal. He's got 2 years, $111 million left on his contract, and a no-trade clause, folks. What are you going to do? The problem's not Bud, and I'll throw this back at you, CP. Who's going to come in as a coach? Forget the GM stuff. Who's going to come in as a coach and is going to fix this roster?
Yeah.
And why would Devin Booker want to stay?
That's a good point, man. Look, I think anybody who's looking to get into the coaching ranks might take it just to get it on their resume, but you're a dead man walking from the time you sign on that dotted line. Budenholzer has his faults. You talk about the relationship building. That was certainly not his strong suit, from the Devin Booker fallouts, the KD fallouts, and the Yusuf Nurkic fallout all in one season. You had all three of those guys not co-signing him. So that was pretty much the death knell. On top of the fact that you couldn't even get this team. Yes, they were a top-heavy team and defensively not good and soft, but you couldn't even get this team into play-in in the West. I mean, look, I know the West is tough, but damn, you couldn't even get this team into play-in. I think that's also an indictment, but it's not just an indictment on the coach. It's an indictment on James Jones. He's done a terrible job. The Bradley Beal deal was the death knell for him in terms of how they wanted to use that CP3 contract. And this Phoenix Suns team is a perfect case study of the dreaded second apron and how not to rush a build here with the second apron, because these guys are screwed. They gave up all their draft capital to Brooklyn in the KD trade. That is now belonging to the Houston Rockets when they swapped picks in last offseason. So they don't own their own picks until like 2031. They're in the bed with Bradley Beal, who has a no-trade clause. You traded for a guy who's a low-impact player, never done anything in noteworthy in the postseason. You owe him $110 million, and you can't move him anywhere, right? You got KD, who's just a mercenary now, 37 years old. He's going to get moved, according to the reports, as we all figured. He was on the way out since the trade deadline. He had one foot out the door.
Yep.
So they are stuck. The only thing that they can do right now, they have to just drop a bomb in that thing, send Booker packing, and maybe it's to Houston to try to get some of those picks back. There's no point in trading KD and keeping Booker. Yeah, he's 28. There's no point in keeping Devin Booker. It's over. The Devin Booker thing is over. Trade him, get your picks back, and start over, bro. They're
The
cooked.
thing, the thing is, I agree with you 100%. You sound like a sensible man, CP, which you are. Matt Ishbia has not shown me that he will operate that way, right? Like this, there's no reason for me to believe that he will do this. The other problem is Devin Booker's been on record saying that he wants to stay with the Suns. Now, things can change. And things can change, especially after how this season went down. And I wonder if
Yeah.
Devin Booker looks around to your point and says, okay, if they move, let's say they move KP, but let's say before the draft, let's just say that they move KP and Devin Booker looks around and says, okay, what's there left for me here? I'm not staying here and playing with Bradley Beal. Houston is the place that makes a lot of sense. They need a star. They need somebody who can score, which is one of their Achilles heels right now, especially for them late in
Yeah.
games. You've got Amen Thompson. You got Jalen Green. You might have some picks. They got to. I just hope that if you're a Suns fan, I think you got to hope that Matt Ishbia is going to do that. But when you looked at the quotes that was put out today, he's still saying that, this isn't up to our standard. I'm like, well, what is your standard? I'm not sure. And then secondly, how are you getting back to that when you're a second apron team and you basically you have zero flexibility?
Cooked.
That's the thing. They have no flexibility right now. And when you're a second apron team and you're that aggressive, as you said, CP, it's tough in the NBA to win right now. Tough to compete because they can't compete.
Compete.
You didn't even make the play-in. I was going to say you're a playing team. You didn't even make the play-in.
Can't compete.
They should blow it up. I don't think Matt Ishbia will. I don't think his ego will allow him to.
What do you guys think about the chat, man? The Suns are finished. Leave us a comment in the chat. Let us know how you're feeling on this Black Monday. And also on this Black Monday, Dex. Oh, we lost you there.
Mm-hmm.
Also on this Black Monday, David Griffin out of there in New Orleans. Joe Dumars, the front runner to take over there in New Orleans, man. What you think about that with David Griffin?
I think it's interesting. I think David Griffin actually did a pretty good job when you look at the stuff he did in terms of drafting, in terms of value he found with like a Herb Williams. I even didn't mind their trade, this past offseason for DeJounte Murray. They just haven't had health. I mean, it's a problem. Brandon Ingram, before they traded him, was not healthy. CJ McCollum has not been healthy. We don't even get started about Zion Williamson, who never plays. They haven't had a lot of health. This is a case where I don't think David Griffin is a bad GM. His time just ran out. He's there for what, 6 years?
Mm-hmm.
His time ran out there. I think he'll get another job because I think his track record speaks for himself. He obviously got a pretty good haul and did well in the Anthony Davis trade when he was able to orchestrate that. He just didn't have players that could stay on the court. Now, whoever takes that job, if Joe Dumars takes that job, and he's a Louisiana native, so I'm sure he wants to come home. But the biggest thing is you got to figure, what are you doing with Zion Williamson? Who's the face of that franchise? And maybe it's best for the Pelicans to move on from Zion Williamson, but I don't know who wants Zion Williamson. Now, if he's available, CP, you know this, the Knicks fans are going to come out and say they should go get Zion Williamson. I think that would be a mistake.
No.
But you're going to hear that because everybody gets attached to the Knicks. That's a job. It's definitely a better job than Phoenix. I just want to be clear. Even though James Jones, somehow the craziness about today is James Jones still has a job and David Griffin does not.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense to me. But it's a more attractive job. You have some things you could do, but I just wonder who you trading away. Can you move a CJ McCollum? Can you move Zion Williamson? You have some nice young pieces in Trey Murphy III and Herb Jones, but this is one where I maybe just wonder if the relationship just had run its course. I don't think this is an indictment on David Griffin, who I think is actually a pretty good GM. And like I said, I think he'll get snatched up someplace else pretty quickly, or he'll have his pick of good places to go. But New Orleans has a lot of issues they got to figure out.
Yeah, the Zion thing did him in, man. That was no fault of his own. Look, coming in to the draft, it was an easy no-brainer. Stevie Wonder could have made the pick, but the injuries did him in. And if your star player, if the guy who you have the most invested in is not available for you, then what type of team do you have in the West? You don't have a team. On top of the fact that, again, my opinion, Brandon Ingram, good player, low impact player. He's not a guy who can carry a team. You need multiple guys. So they went out there and tried to get a CJ McCollum. Good move. You got a good veteran player. And look what they did. They made the play-in. They made some noise there. They had the scrappers around them. They were an exciting story with Willie Green, a good coach at the helm. The Zion thing, you just can't recover from that. And then on top of that, Ingram got hurt. Hey, now, you might be regretting the Dyson Daniels thing as he emerges as a Defensive Player of the Year candidate, and especially in the West, it would have been nice to have Daniels, Trey Murphy, and Herb Jones kind of leading your versatility there, especially defensively with Willie Green, but again, it was all Zion. I love the Trey Murphy pickup. He was a guy I wanted on the Knicks. You got to love Herb Jones. Hey, Grand Theft Alvarado. Like, they have the supporting cast. They just don't have the engine that you can rely on. You know what I mean? It's like a Maserati.
You're right. They got some nice features, right? But they don't have the engine, like you said. And Zion, to me, is a guy you can't count on. And from when you hear things around the league, you're not sure he's 10 toes down there. You're not sure about that. And so I think that's something they got to figure out. Now, some of it has been unfortunate for him. Some of it, I think, when you talk to some people, it's on him. And where's the conditioning level at? Where's the commitment to that? I don't know. They got a lot. There's a lot of questions there in New Orleans. A lot of questions.
A lot of questions. But, with that young talent there, it's fixable. You can make a couple moves here and there, but it's got to start with Zion. You got to find something for him. I just think you're selling at a place of disadvantage.
They are. The other interesting thing is, do they keep Willie Green, who I, like you, think is a very good coach? And do they want to bring in, if Joe Dumars comes in, does he want to bring in his own guy? That's always an interesting thing there. So you'll see. It'll be interesting down there. See what they do.
Yes, sir. Great show, man. Great to kick this thing back off. Yep. And very interesting storylines across the association. We'll have the play-in tournament starting tomorrow with a lot of interesting games. You got Golden State and the Grizzlies. You got Kings, Mavs. You'll have Bulls and Heat. You have Magic and Hawks. So the play-in starts tomorrow. Very interesting that Golden State got bumped there. All the winning that they did since the Butler trade. And one costly game. Hey, that's how competitive the West was. One costly game bumped them out of there. So we'll see what happens there. But Dex, great job, man. Let the people know where they can find you and what you got on deck for this week.
Yeah, you can find me at DHenryTV, all social media platforms, hosting New York Got Game, our weekly New York basketball show. You can catch that there. We have a preview coming up this week, probably recording Thursday or Friday, and then we will be doing a live watch party on Saturday, so come join us during the game. Myself, Brian Fonseca, will be doing that, and we'll be rocking with everybody post-game. So a lot of good guests coming on throughout the playoffs. CP will be one of those throughout. We'll have a lot of good people coming on.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, bro.
Yeah, man.
Having me as always.
Great job as always, man, and we will catch up. And for you guys at home, hey, catch up on the NBA report, man. We are back at it. Hit the like button, hit the share button, subscribe to the channel. Remember that the show's available in audio podcast format, man. So we'll see you guys later this week. Peace.
Peace.